Were you the kid who always asked, why? So much that you drove your parents crazy. Or maybe you were the one who'd rather spend recess building an imaginary world in your head than playing tag. If that sounds familiar, you might just be an INTP, and this video is going to feel like a trip down memory lane. We're about to dive into 7 specific childhood experiences that almost every INTP has in common. You might be surprised to find out just how not alone you really were. So, let's start with number 1. The endless why phase that never actually ended. For most kids, asking why is a temporary phase. But for the young INTP, it was a way of life. It wasn't about being annoying. It was a genuine, burning need to understand the fundamental principles of everything. Why is the sky blue? Okay, but why does light scatter that way? And why do those particles exist? You weren't satisfied with simple answers. You wanted the deep, complex, scientific truth. You probably remember the look on adults' faces, a mix of pride and pure exhaustion as you drilled them with questions they had thought about since their own school days. This wasn't just curiosity. It was the beginning of your lifelong quest to build a complete, logical model of the universe in your mind. Every why was another brick in that enormous, ever-expanding mental structure. This leads us to the second shared memory. Having a secret, incredibly detailed imaginary world. This wasn't just playing make-believe. For the young INTP, this was world-building on an epic scale. You might have had entire universes in your head, complete with their own laws of physics, political systems, unique species, and complex histories. You could spend hours, even days, just living in this internal world. It was your private laboratory where you could run simulations, explore ideas, and be the master of your own domain. While other kids were playing with action figures, you were choreographing elaborate sagas with them, each character having a rich backstory and a complex motivation. This internal world was your ultimate sandbox, a place far more interesting and orderly than the often chaotic and illogical real world. It was a safe haven where your mind could stretch its legs and run wild without judgment. Next up, number 3. The deep love for systems and patterns. Remember getting your first Lego set, or maybe a chemistry kit? For the INTP child, it wasn't just a toy. It was a universe of possibilities. You weren't just following the instructions. In fact, you probably looked at the instructions, thought, I can do better, and then proceeded to build something completely different and, in your mind, far more efficient or creative. You loved taking things apart just to see how they worked: clocks, radios, old VC. The goal wasn't to break them, but to understand the internal logic, the system that made them tick. You were fascinated by how all the little pieces fit together to create a functioning whole. This love for systems extended everywhere, from organizing your toys in a very specific, logical way to finding patterns in numbers, language, or even the behavior of the people around you. This fascination with systems often created a bit of a challenge. Our fourth memory is feeling like a social alien. While other kids seemed to effortlessly understand the rules of social interaction, you were on the outside looking in, trying to figure out the algorithm. Socializing felt like a game where everyone else got the rule book and you didn't. Small talk was excruciating. Why would anyone want to talk about the weather when you could be discussing the nature of black holes? You might have been quiet in large groups, not because you were shy in the traditional sense, but because you were busy observing, analyzing, and trying to decode the strange rituals of human connection. You probably had 1 or 2 close friends who got you, and with them, you could talk for hours about your real interests. But in most social situations, you felt like you were speaking a different language, leading to a sense of isolation that many INTPs carry with them. Number 5 is becoming a mini expert on very specific, often random, topics. Did you go through a dinosaur phase, a space phase, an ancient Egypt phase? But for the INTP kid, a phase was a full-blown deep dive. You wouldn't just know that the T-Rex was a carnivore. You'd know its estimated bite force, the debate around whether it was a predator or a scavenger, and the names of the paleontologists who discovered the most famous fossils. You'd read every book you could find, watch every documentary, and become the undisputed expert on that topic among your family and friends. Then, just as suddenly, your interest would shift to something completely new, like mushroom identification or the history of medieval siege weapons, and the cycle would begin again. This wasn't about showing off. It was about satisfying your insatiable intellectual hunger and the joy of mastering a complex system of information. The sixth shared memory is a complicated relationship with rules and authority. It's not that you were a troublemaker, but you had a serious problem with rules that didn't make logical sense. Because I said so was the most frustrating answer anyone could ever give you. If a rule was arbitrary or inefficient, you felt a deep, internal need to question it, challenge it, or find a loophole. This probably got you into some trouble at school or with your parents. Teachers might have seen you as defiant, when in reality, you were just trying to understand the logic behind the command. You respected authority that was based on competence and knowledge, but you had zero patience for authority based purely on position or tradition. This independent thinking was a core part of your identity, even if it made life a little more difficult at times. And finally, our seventh memory. Experiencing moments of sudden, brilliant insight. The world calls them aha moments. For the INTP, they're a regular occurrence. You'd be thinking about a problem, maybe a math puzzle, a broken toy, or a complex social dynamic, and you'd be stuck. You'd chew on it, analyze it from every angle, and get nowhere. Then, when you were doing something completely unrelated, like staring out the window or taking a shower, the solution would suddenly flash into your mind, fully formed and perfectly clear. It felt like magic, but it was really your powerful intuition, connecting all the dots your logical mind had been gathering in the background. These moments were incredibly satisfying and reinforced your trust in your own mental processes. It was the feeling of your brain's hidden machinery clicking into place, solving the puzzle with a burst of elegant clarity. So, from the endless whys to those sudden flashes of insight, these are the threads that often weave through the childhood of an INTP. It can be a lonely and confusing path, feeling like you're wired differently from everyone else. But it's also a world filled with wonder, intellectual adventure, and the profound joy of understanding. Realizing that these quirky, specific experiences are shared by a whole group of people is a powerful thing. It's a reminder that your unique way of seeing the world isn't a bug. It's a feature. To see how these childhood traits develop in adults, check out our next video on INTP careers.